Okay, so for 12.5, we're going to learn about two different types of rules that we're going to learn how to write. So we've done arithmetic, which is where they add or subtract by a number. We've done geometric, which is where they multiply by a number. Now we're going to use explicit and recursive rule. So an explicit rule means that you have your a sub n as a function in terms of the positions number n in the sequence. So the past two that we've learned, those are explicit, like we're using that n value. But then a recursive rule means we're going to build on the previous term. So recursive means that it's in the previous term, we're going to use that number prior, and then we're going to do something with that number. So we're going to use n minus 1. So if we look at number 1 in part A, we now have an a sub 0, which is like our 0 term. Because when you have recursive, you're building off of that. So you'll start with the 0 term. And then the rule is an equals an minus 1 plus 4. So when I plug in, if I were to plug in, my a sub 0 is 1. If I were to find a of 1, then I would take a sub 0 plus 4, which would be 1 plus 4, which would give me 5. So basically I'm taking the previous term and I'm adding 4 every single time. So what could you predict that the next term would be? So this one was 5 plus 9, or 5 plus 4, sorry, I was jumping ahead of myself, is 9. And then 9 plus 4, 13. Then the next one would be 17, and the following one would be 21. Then for part B, now we don't have the little blanks given to us, but I want to write the first 6 terms. And it gives me a1, so I have 1. So it gives me a1, and then it's taking the previous term and it's multiplying it by 3 every single time. So I'm going to, for my second term, like my a2, it would be 3 times 1, which would be 3. Then I'm going to take the previous one, so it's going to be 3 times 3, which would be 9. 9 times 3, 27 times 3, 81. And it already gave me a1, which was 1. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 81 times 3 is 243. Good. So that would be my first 6 terms. Okay, for number 2, now I want to write the first 5 terms of the sequence. So it gives me the first term, which is 3. This rule is a little bit different because you're taking the previous term and then you're adding n, where n is going to change with every single number. So this was a1, where n equals 1. The next one would be n equals 2. So to find that, I'm going to take 3 plus 2, which would give me 5. Then I have n equals 3. So I'm going to take my previous number, which is 5, and then I'm going to add what? 5 plus what?
2.
Not 2, 3. Because I'm adding my n every single time. So my n is changing. My second term I'm adding 2. My third term I'm adding 3. My fourth term I'm adding 4. Fifth term I'm adding 5. So my third would be 8. Then the next one, so my fourth term would be 8 plus what?
4.
4, which would give me 12. My fifth term, so this is the last one. My fifth term would be 12 plus what? 5.
17.
Which would give me 17. So a lot of work below, but my first 5 terms would be 3, 5, 8, 12, and 17. So anytime that it says a n minus 1, that indicates that it is your previous term. So you're using the answer from the last one and you're using it for the next one.
8, not 0.
But anywhere that it says n, you're just using that n value. So it's the actual term itself. It's not the previous term, but it is that term. It is that number, A1, A2, A3, A4. It's like they all have a slot. So now we are going to be given numbers. We're given a sequence, and we actually have to write the recursive rule for that. So it's kind of like going back to the first lesson where we had to create our own rule. But now we're going to be, so recursive means I'm going to be using A to the n minus 1. So based on the previous term, what am I doing with the next term? So here we have 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. Can anyone see a pattern?
A n minus 1.
A n minus 1, so that's a good place to start. So if we have the first term, which is like A0 equals 1, A1 equals 1, A2 equals 2, A3 equals 3, and A4 equals 5.
Why is it 1?
This one increased, or so if I'm going from 0 to 1, it increased by 0. This one increased by 1. This one increased by 1, and this one increased by 2. So this one's a little bit harder to see. But if I take my, so if we look at,
I think it went by very fast.